Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently finished with our EVE missions. I hope. As you can see, we've got 4.6 million... I was going to say C-bills. Okay, sure. These are C-bills now. This is definitely a Battletech game. 100%. 4.67 million C-bills. Let's go. So, in mission control, what do we got? Explore the moon. Rendezvous 2 vessels around the moon. I mean, that's really easy to do. Let's do that. We can do that very, very, very quickly. So I want to take a look right now at what we've got around the moon. So we need to rendezvous up with an existing Mooner vehicle, and that would basically mean one of these communication satellites that pre-exists. So we've got this survey satellite here in a polar orbit. We've got this dual comsat in a polar orbit, a different polar orbit. And we've got this dual comsat over here in an equatorial orbit. And this is probably the one we want to look for. I'm going to change our ComNet visualization to none so that it's a little less messy. So we would need to just rendezvous up with this dual comsat relay out over here, and that should be incredibly easy to do. Let's go ahead and hop into the VAB, and we'll design up a real quick craft to do that. It's going to be a very light payload. So this is just going to be a rendezvouser, and then we'll probably crash it into the moon just so that it's not, you know, cluttering up the world. So let's hop in here. And let's open up... do we even want to open anything, or do we want to just design this from scratch? Let's just design it from scratch. So we're going to do a extra small remote guidance unit up here. And then, do we have a nose cone that can fit on that size? Like a fueled nose cone. Hang on. Let's see. Yeah, Oscar O. Perfect. So something like that, and then we can put in a relatively small fuel tank here, like an Oscar D. That's probably wildly overkill right there. And then a spark engine down here. This is our payload, and it's going to be incredibly minuscule. So we can put in a little bit of power generation here. I'm thinking 1x6s is probably a little overkill, but we can do 2 of these. So it'd just be something like that. I'm not going to include anything else on here. We don't need any science experiments. We don't need a bigger antenna. We need very, very little here, to be honest. So this should be fine at this point. We then just need to get this thing up and into orbit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a decoupler. This will be a TD06 decoupler. And then down this direction, I want to do an adapter if we have one. Do we have an adapter that goes up from the Oscar B size? There's this NCS adapter. And then that could go directly to Rockomax. That's hilarious, but that doesn't have fuel in it. So it would be like... It'd be like this adapter to go up to Rockomax size. I think that's Rockomax, right? That's actually a little under Rockomax size. Okay, so we can just sit like this for now. This can be our stage 2. And that would end up being like a Terrier would be the size for that. That's probably even pretty much overkill. So we can do something like that. This would, of course, be up here where that stage would fire. This is only liquid fuel in here. Hang on, there's no oxidizer. That's a problem. So we would definitely need to have some oxidizer in there. So let's see what we've got here. There's this one. That's liquid fuel and oxidizer, and that's going up to Rockomax size, isn't it? That's actually kind of... that's not quite Rockomax size, but we can still bring this down to a quad compact and have it fit on there if we wanted to. Or we can adapt it up to Rockomax, which I would kind of like to do. So that would be like this. Yeah, that's Rockomax size. So this is kind of ridiculous looking already, but that's fine. We can just do a TD25 decoupler here. So that would be this one. And then we would do just like a couple of Rockomax tanks here. I doubt we need any strap-on boosters for this, to be honest. So something like this, we'll have both of these be orange, of course, because orange tanks are best tanks. And then we would do a mainsail. So that would be, where are we? Mainsail. Here we go. I'm sure this has enough thrust to weight, right? Oh yeah, that has enough thrust to weight. So that looks good. These would be combined together into a single stage, and it would be something like this. This would be more than sufficient for what we'd need to do. The only question would be, do we have the control authority, and do we have any weak areas in our setup here? I think gimbaling is probably going to be sufficient, although this might have a small tumbling issue. So to that end, we could definitely put in like a couple of tail fins down here. So that would be... We could go with Delta Deluxe winglets. That's probably fine. If we did 4 of these, this is probably sufficient control authority to make sure that we don't have any awkwardness ensuing. Probably. Okay. I'm going to call this the Moon Interceptor. There we go. And let's save this. Let's put it out on the pad. And the question is this a simulated launch? Honestly, I don't think so. This is such a basic design, and it's very cheap as well. I don't actually care if we lose this or not. So let's just not simulate it, and let's go. As soon as it loads, anyway. So we'll put this into surface up. Throttle it up, and off we go. So we've definitely got some decent thrust to weight here. I'm going to want to be semi-aggressive with the gravity turn here. We're going to take this to orbital prograde probably once this passes the 45-degree marker. It's going to be quite early, shall we say. Okay, gravity turn. That's interesting. It's a lot more stable than I expected it to be. Might be a little overstable, in fact. Okay, let's just hold here at 45 degrees for now. We're overturning this. We need to get some additional altitude. So we'll just punch up our apoapsis here, and we'll go back over to orbital prograde once we reach an apoapsis of, I don't know, like 30 kilometers or so, something like that. We're punching up through the atmosphere pretty quickly right now, and things are looking good on that front. This is way overbuilt, by the way. Way overbuilt. Okay, so that's a 30-kilometer apoapsis there. I'm taking us over to prograde. We're very stable. I'm a little concerned about a plasma sheath forming, though. We have a lot of speed. Like, a lot of speed. That said, we have a lot of vertical speed, too. So we need to be at... I'm cutting the throttle. I'm noting the heat gauges here. We're coasting for the moment. I want to move us over to horizontal velocity up, but we definitely need to let this plasma sheath work down a little bit. So we're coasting for now. I'm going to resume the engine burn shortly. Plasma sheath is gone. Let's go. We're a little overpowered on this first stage. That's clear. But that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to burn here at the horizon until our apoapsis is like 250. We're going to go for a fairly high orbit here. Okay, that's 240 and 250. That'll do. So we're still in the atmosphere as of right now, so you can see our apoapsis is dropping. I'm going to actually put us up to 255 to deal with that. Now we shouldn't have any issue with it, and this will be absolutely fine. So let's just add a maneuver here. Bring that right on up to circularize this. So that'll be about 266.9 meters per second. Sounds good. We're in space now. Let's go ahead and extend our solar panels so we don't run out of batteries. After all, we barely have any electric charge in this thing. Also, are we going to be blocking our sunlight? That's a distinct possibility. Our turn rate is going to be very low. This does have a reaction wheel, but it's going to struggle. And it looks like we do have power flow coming through, so that looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and physics warp as we very slowly make this turn. This will get a lot better once we get rid of this. And this fuel is going to be so overkill. We have so much fuel in this thing. It's absurd how much fuel we have right now. So we're just going to get into position for this burn. It has taken us about 3 minutes to make this turn, so we're not the most maneuverable in the world, but that's okay. We'll be much, much more maneuverable later. We've still got about another 7 minutes here. There we go. And we're going to warp on forward. Cool. 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. No probe control. That's interesting. Because of not enough electric charge. Well, that's problematic. By the time we get electric charge, well, we have a lot of extra fuel. We have a lot of extra fuel. We'll be okay. I'm going to warp to about here. We need to... I'm going to clear the input blocker here because we need to get rid of that maneuver so that we can just warp up to here because the button doesn't appear otherwise. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do anything that we would not be able to do without the input blocker because the input blocker is valid, but I just needed to be able to remove that maneuver node. Okay, so at this point, we want to be in orbital and radial out. Let's stop the warp because we need to burn here. This is going to be very inefficient. No doubt about it. But we're just going to burn like so to put ourselves up into orbit. Okay, so now we're in orbit, and that's absolutely fine. This is not a great way to burn, but here we are. Okay, so now we've got this thing, and I'm going to put this in kill rot, and it's very slowly going to stop this tumble. Very slowly. But now what we need to do is we need to head out to the moon. So the moon is right there, and we'll do our burn sometime around here. Cool. That looks relatively fine. In terms of the actual encounter, we want a relatively minimal encounter here. This is probably fine. Although we may actually want to bring it down a little lower than this for purposes of rendezvous. So if we did this, this is probably absolutely fine. Yeah, we'll have to raise our orbit back up, but we don't have a concern about amount of fuel here. We have so much fuel. So I'm okay with that. Let's just lock ourselves to the node and physics warp our turn because that's going to be kind of slow. On 4x physics warp, it's kind of reasonable. Kind of. But you can see we've got 93 seconds of burn time here. It's a lot. So this is going to be a 30-second burn here, roughly a third of this fuel. So that will definitely help us. Let's warp forward. There we go. 50 seconds. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. And off we go to the moon. We can see the moon is right here. We're definitely burning a little later than my rule of thumb timing, but that's because of the particular encounter we're going for. So this is absolutely okay. So this will take us out to the moon. We'll do our braking burn. We'll do our orbit raise with this, and we'll see how much fuel we have left at that point. It'll be it will have fuel left. Absolutely, at that point. No doubt about it. So 10.8 meters per second. Let's just get this last little bit done here. We'll call that good. Excellent. So this is 105. I like it. We'll add a maneuver here. Just drop that right on down, circularize it up. And that'll be 240 meters per second. Let's lock to that node. Excellent. Our turn rate is definitely increasing as we get this fuel burned out, which we knew would happen. That is, of course, reducing our overall mass. So that looks great. Just about in position here, and let's warp on through. There we go. Excellent. We're zoning into the moon's field zone of influence right now. There we go. And we've got about 50 seconds until this burn. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 1, 0, mark. Okay, so a couple hundred meters per second burned out there. Looks good. This should be absolutely fine. I'm not too concerned about this burn being super precise. At this point, all we need to do is we need to set this ComSat as our target, check our ascending and descending node, which is awkwardly right over our apoapsis and periapsis. Okay, we can make a small adjustment there, and I think we probably should. So at the descending node here, let's go ahead and do a burn about like that. This is going to be very minor, so I'm going to thrust limit this down to 0.5%. There we go. And we'll lock to that node. Ah, look at that. We're turning at an appreciable rate at this point. This is without physics warp on. That's good. With physics warp on, it's almost even a reasonable rate. Almost. So that looks fine. We're going to have to burn quite a lot more fuel, of course, to get to our final position for this, and then we're going to crash it into the moon. So that'll be another little bit anyway. I may even just go for the landing. I don't know. There's no real reason to land it, but there's no real reason not to either. So we've got 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. So at this incredibly low thrust, this is going to be a 13-second burn. No issues here. We'll call that good. Okay, so at this point, I want to unthrust limit this engine. There we go, and let's take a look at where the dual ComSat relay is. So if we were to burn right about here, that's actually kinda close. Kinda close. The awkward thing about this is that this has the escape trajectory component to it, right? But that's a good encounter right there. 26.5, 86 meters per second of separation. We can work with that. So we'll align to this node. And that burn is going to be in 1 hour and 6 minutes. There we go. So let's warp on around. And we've currently got 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, we're about 3 meters per second off. We'll get this last little bit quite accurately. That'll do. I think we may have overshot slightly. This is fine. So we'll allow that, and then we're going to go into target mode, and we're going to warp up to about here. So up we go. Excellent. So we'll be in a very, very close position here. We're just going to want to burn target retrograde, which is going to be kind of prograde in our actual overall orbit here. We don't want to do this yet, but we want to get into approximate position for it. So that'll be fine. We don't have power right now. That's a bit of a problem. But I'm assuming we'll come out of the penumbra of Kerbal very soon. This is going to be in over an hour. Okay, so we're not going to have power, but yeah, we're going to be fine. Cool. So that's no problem there. Let's focus on the moon interceptor if we can. Let's actually just come out over here like this. There we go. That'll be fine. So we'll warp to about here. And I want to be in target retrograde. So target velocity minus. There we go. So we'll warp on over, and that'll be good. What we want to do right now is we want to approach the same orbit while also getting closer at the same time. So I'm going to come out of this warp here in just a moment. There we go. We'll line on over. We have so much delta V here. This is absurd. We don't need anywhere near this amount of delta V. Okay, so we want to be headed towards target velocity minus, but we want to overshoot this a little bit. So out over this direction, approximately. I'm just putting us in kill rot. Ooh, that gave us a lot of spin velocity. We're over gimbaled here. I'm going to turn our gimbal limit down to like 2%. Okay, so I want to pin open our intersect here. So that's 32.4 kilometers at this moment. We need to bring this down. And we should probably also thrust limit this as well. So I'm thrust limiting us down to like 5% thrust. These are going to be very minute changes. Okay. So at this point, we're just getting into position here. And we're pushing these nodes together at this moment. Yes, I know that this separation is getting further apart right now. I am aware of this. Okay, now it's getting better. Okay, 1.7 kilometers. That's much better. A relative speed of 41.1 meters per second. Let's move this up to a thrust limiter of about 10 at this point, and a gimbal limit of maybe about 5, somewhere around there. So now I want to warp in a little bit closer, so somewhere around here, about 15 minutes. Looks good. We're keeping an eye on these two nodes here. Okay, so now we're going to need to burn somewhere around right here or so as a corrective burn. And we're just pushing these two nodes back together. Just a very minute adjustment at this point. Want a little bit more thrust than this. That'll do. So we can now see that our separation is about 100 meters. That looks good. I think that's probably enough. So let's go ahead and go to, let's see, I want a maneuver about here. And this is going to be minus 35.8, but I'm just using this for timing. This is not the actual burn that we want to do. We want to be at target velocity minus, and we're just using this for timing. Okay, so we can see we're about 5.2 kilometers away at this point. We're going to have to lower our relative speed on down. And then I do want to crash this into the moon just to get it out of here once the contract is complete. So that'll be absolutely wonderful. Hopefully we'll start getting Duna missions soon. That's the dream. So we're going to warp forward a little bit here. 2 minutes. Minute and a half. 1 minute. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, relative velocity minus, please. This was on the wrong thing. Okay, we just want to get that relative velocity minus done. Get over here. Okay, that's getting somewhat better. Technically, we completed the contract, actually. I'm surprised. I feel like we should have had to get a little closer than that and a little slower. So at this point, I want to be at target plus, and we're just going to burn here for a little bit and start heading in towards the target here. So about like that. We'll flip over to relative velocity minus, and I'm going to get closer because I feel like we should. So I'm going to physics warp our flip. And as you can see, we are definitely getting closer here. I want to be within 100 meters of the target, and I want to be at 0.0 meters per second. So let's slow this down a little bit, but I'm also doing a corrective burn here at the same time. Okay, relative velocity minus. .8 meters per second right now, and we're definitely within 100 meters. Let's just bring this down to 0.0. There we go. I'm going to call that good. Now we're going to go to orbital retrograde. And we're just going to drop this thing right on down and impact it into the moon. I don't think I'm going to try to land this. I'm just looking at how long we've got on the episode here. So let's just get this thing right on down. And this will, of course, be a landing here in a moment. Well, it will be a landing, technically. There will be significant litho braking. We do have the fuel to land this thing, but we're going to be coming down on the dark side, which is, you know, not necessarily ideal considering our lack of batteries. So we're just going to crash this thing right on in. That's an impact trajectory there, and let's call this good. I'm going to warp to about here. Actually, we will be on the light side. So that's intriguing. I'm going to take this to surface velocity minus. We're going to have a lot of speed build up, but we have more than enough power to land this if we wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to warp this right on down. We'll crash it into the surface. We'll call it good. We'll get some seismic data maybe. Okay, so this is at 1x here, and as you can see, we're moving pretty good here. I want to continue to warp it down. This is at 10x speed. Okay, this is at 1x. We're making no attempt to land this. Kaboom. Hey, we got some seismic data. I like it. That generated almost 100 science. Wow, that's neat. So it's calling it a catastrophic failure, but I'm calling that a catastrophic success. So that is absolutely wonderful. We managed to get that contract completed and significantly under budget. We've got a lot of money at this point. We've got almost 5 million C-bills probably. That's a lot of C-bills. Actually, it's not that many. It's a decent amount of C-bills. 4.76. Oh, it's very, very dark. That's okay. I want to head over to, that's the VAB there. There's mission control. Perfect. It's so dark. Can't see a thing. Back at Eve. You've got to be kidding me. I don't want to send a crew craft to go transfer between 2 vessels in orbit of Eve. That sounds like a terrible idea. I don't think that's a good thing for us to do. So instead, we're going to find something else for us to do. Possibly moving our vehicle that we have in orbit over Kerbal right now to Duna, because we need to get working on that, or we can just start setting up comsats over Duna. It's fine. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Aurelio, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.